just a quick introduction. My name's Liam. I'm the Chief Exec of a social enterprise called Make CIC, and we run creative hubs and spaces across the Liverpool City region. We have 3, one in the Baltic Triangle, one in the North Docks of Liverpool, and one in Beckenhead and Wirral. And we decided to run these plugged-in sessions initially straight away when lockdown happened, partly because we had a bit of time in our hands and we thought, let's do something meaningful. But also partly because we felt like there needed to be people to start having a conversation. I personally was in a bit of denial about it. I was having those moments thinking, is this real? Waking up or daydreaming and then suddenly being dragged back to reality. And I thought a good thing for us to do would be to talk about it. And that's when we coined these plugged in sessions. And this is the 6th one that we've done. So this is the 3rd session of the 2nd round. And the reason why we've chosen to do one on wellbeing and mental health is partly because it's a massive thing that Make cares about. We measure our social value and the impact that we have as an organisation on society. And one of the massive measures is improvements to people's wellbeing by working in shared work environments and being around peers and having support and all that sort of stuff. As people's mental health and wellbeing improves, so does their prosperity and wealth. I don't just mean monetary wealth. I mean the wealth that we associate with all the things that we want in our own lives and that makes us consider ourselves wealthy. And we thought it was important enough to start talking about the mental health and wellbeing in the context of what's happening right now, help people unpack it. So we get some people together to talk about that. So not directly specifically, this isn't a session about, this isn't a counselling session for us to be dishing out professional advice. This is definitely just a high level conversation about impact and solutions and signposting, and also a chance for us to share our own insight and opinions and stories and such. For those who don't know, one of the origins of Make CIC was that I personally suffered a mental breakdown in my mid-20s, and that led me to a really dark period in my life where one of the proposed solutions to me was to not work from home. The irony now is that I'm working from home, much able to cope with it in a way that I couldn't in my mid-20s, suffering from all the workspace isolation, cabin fever challenges that really led to a place where I had high anxiety and agoraphobia, and it really almost destroyed my life in that way. And that solution was about creating a shared working environment and focusing my energy into something positive instead of torturing myself. And that's part of the origin of Make, and it's part of the reason why we care so much about that for our residents. And we've been very, very aware of the impact that COVID-19 and isolation is having. Most of our residents choose to be a part of our community for not too dissimilar reasons that I've just explained about the origin. So it's big for us. And I'd like to welcome 3 people to sort of share their insight and stories as well. And we're going to go around and they're going to introduce themselves and talk about COVID-19, the impact and the work that they're doing as well. So if I could start with Lee.
Yeah, cheers, mate. So my name's Lee Pennington. I'm the charity director of the Open Door Centre on the Bloom building. So I set the charity up and we opened in November 2011. Essentially just like a new startup and really grassroots. We were based in a little shop in Liscard, a grassroots startup whereby I wanted to set something up so that somebody who was between sort of 15 and 30, who was struggling with low mood, depression, anxiety, stress, panic attacks, those sorts of things, somewhere that people can go to and access free, immediate sort of talking therapies and therapeutic support, which hopefully was designed and tailored to that demographic, and that looked and felt bright and welcoming and friendly and engaging, and a lot of things that traditionally the quite clinical approach of the traditional approach around depression and anxiety and stress and these sorts of things. Could be like quite cold and sterile, so we wanted to like flip it on its head and do something different. That was the initial idea. So, but very quickly when we opened in November 2011 with some seed funding from the National Lottery, when we opened, it was very clear that it wasn't just going to be about one outcome or one really angle to the work. There was three. So the first one was around, if someone's struggling, they can come to us with no waiting list, with no charge, get a version of talking therapies which is progressive and innovative and designed with them in mind. But then the way that we designed that is we took a sort of digitized therapeutic intervention, so a CCBT program. The leading off-the-shelf one back then, 9 or 10 years ago, was something called Beating the Blues. So we took that program and we went into, we thought, well, let's try and think about it differently and make the therapeutic experience very, very different to just sitting on your own and going through that as a lone worker sort of intervention. So the idea was that's only part of the process. The other part is each person who came was paired up with a peer mentor who's someone of similar age, similar, live in the same area, shared interests, as close personality match as we could possibly make that person, but also life experience-wise, the majority of people who want to get involved in doing that type of work are people predominantly who've been there themselves and have experience of these things within themselves or within the family. So that like volunteer peer mentor role, which is fundamentally the lion's share of the therapeutic experience that people are getting when they're coming to us, that was a real important outcome stream as well, in that sort of we've given opportunity for people to train and volunteer, increase their employability, undertake social action, build what's been essentially a negative life experience in their own life into something really positive in the lives of others. So that was the second strand around volunteering, social action and that. And then the third strand was, as I said at the start, let's sit all of that within the world of culture, music, the arts, community, to sort of reimagine where conversations about mental health and where support around mental health sits in order to engage people who might be traditionally disengaged in traditional avenues of support. So that was when we opened, that was the initial idea. Fast forward to today, and we've grown to become one of the biggest independent providers of talking therapies in Merseyside. So just before we closed for the crisis, we had nearly 100, I think it was 109 people booked in that week to come and access our support, delivered by a team of 65 peer mentors. Those numbers are going up and up all the time. And now we reside within the Bloom building, which is something that we created, which was basically, we outgrew where we were, years ago, but we didn't have the income stream, and we didn't have the opportunity to scale and to live in the type of building where the organisation reputationally and the amount of people we were reaching and the impact we were having where it should really sit. But that changed about a year and a half ago. So the idea behind the Bloom building is it's not just a bigger home for the Open Door Centre. The Open Door Centre is the anchor tenant, but the whole building is a sort of shared workspace and a shared arena for anyone invested in creating a more progressive way of thinking about mental health on Wirral. So, massive upscaling in what we can achieve with the Open Door Centre. We can take on other bits of work which we've been able to do around looking at the wider family support mechanisms that go alongside the people who are actually receiving the actual one-to-one sort of bizarre support. We've got tenants, sort of Be Well Learning, and we do a community autism hub is there. Anyone who's working towards a more progressive approach around mental health on Wirral, hopefully the idea is that over the coming years, the Bloom building might become the second home. But also within the Bloom building is a music venue. So we're putting on gigs and festivals and events and very much all that stuff that we've always tried to do around sitting the core work in a completely different part of the community where mental health traditionally sits. Now we can sort of do that in-house. And we haven't come across anything else really that makes the world of mental health and social action and volunteering and depression and anxiety and all these things, and takes the world of culture, music, the arts, community, gigs, festivals, and smashes the two together. So we're not a mental health charity, we're not a training provider, we're not a community workspace, we're not a coffee shop, we're all of those things in one. So it's a really exciting time. And when we moved into the And this will feed into what I say about it with the coronavirus stuff. But what when we moved into the Bloom building a year and a half ago, the challenge was going to be like how we fill a warehouse when we've been living in a tiny little shop in Liscard, and very quickly already the problem that we've got now is how that we're constricted in the Bloom building, and we need more space. What the virus has meant. So I mean, everyone, there's numerous news articles out there and public information and common sense really that says that the virus is going to present mental health challenges on a greater scale and in a different way than which we might have been apparent before. But nobody knows exactly how big an increase in demand, what the surge is going to look like, and what those challenges might be. It might be that it's not as intense or large as what people think, but as an organisation like us and where we sit now within the community, and our responsibility to the community is that we need to be prepared for worst case scenarios and think, okay, well, because if we get swamped with demand, all that happens is you enter the world of waiting list, you enter the world of everything that it was sort of set up to be an alternative to. So we've tried to make sure that in the immediacy, people who we were supporting already and people involved already, that's continuing in the best and most effective way possible. I can't sit here and say that it's ideal because the whole thing's built on shared experience and one-to-one interaction and human interaction. So, and doing, completing the sessions from home. Yeah, it's not ideal, but it keeps an ongoing process of the person supporting themselves. We back that up with Skype sessions where applicable, regular phone calls and regular phone conversations, and basically trying to have as much of a presence as is possible within people's lives at the time that we're closed. So we've also compiled that. So the day-to-day work we've tried to keep ticking along as best we can, but also we've pulled together a package of activities, which is again like three sides to it, which is basically pulling out some key parts of what we do ordinarily, but really making it bespoke to the virus and really presenting it in a way that people can access from home and is designed to be accessed from home. So there's one about we can register people for licenses, the Bazaar program, to complete the course from home. There's also something called Unity Matters, which we've created, which is looking around a more holistic, family-based support sessions to support families who might be struggling. And also there's a creativity aspect. So there's weekly tasks to get people within the family and within the home engaged in artistic and creative activities that ultimately is going to help open up conversations and help their own well-being and keeping them creative and keeping them active. But everything's created from that. We're documenting, and we're going to do a big party when we reopen and exhibit all of that within the Bloom building. Looking towards the future as well, we've secured some extra space within Make and Hamilton, which we're very excited about, which is going to be like sort of satellite delivery space, but also we can deliver a couple of key new projects with having the extra space, which are going to feed, which we were already planning on, but which planning wise we brought forward on account of the virus. But there'll be more information in the coming weeks and months about exactly what they might be. So there's been challenges, and there's still going to be a little bit of a jump into the unknown. But there's also positives. I mean, we would have never ever explored digitizing what we do to the degree that we've had to over the past couple of weeks or past however long the sort of lockdown's been. We found within our Community Matters working, for example, in the empowerment team. We found that working with families digitally and meeting over Skype, it doesn't impact on the outcomes with a lot of families. A lot of families actually prefer that, and it's more convenient. So that might be something that, we're not just saying, we can't do face-to-face anymore, but maybe giving families the option is something that we would have never thought to explore. And it's a good test case for us because everything we've ever delivered has really been around the one-to-one support, and within the therapeutic programs been in-house. So being able to broaden that and people accessing that in the satellite capacity, it's an opportunity for us to learn how well that works and learn where the challenges are, and also to adapt that so that ultimately we're in the process of working with universities in the next 12 months on quite a large scale. But we've never had the opportunity for us to deliver our support in a satellite capacity like we are now. So it's a learning exercise that ultimately, if it works well and we can use it as a really robust learning exercise, potentially in 12 months' time, there could be 10,000, we were looking at projections, there could be 10,000 plus students in the UK accessing that, which is a huge amount of impact that we can use, try and take some positive learning from what's going on to inform that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I know I've probably gone a bit further than 5 minutes, but I'll leave it there and, open to questions.
No, yeah, we'll be coming back to you, don't worry. There's somebody's asked a question in the Q&A already. It's really, really great to hear that it has been an opportunity for you to digitize some of the stuff. And the saying goes that necessity is the mother of invention. And and I've also seen Anna doing the same thing. So Anna, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Anna. I'm the Artistic Director for Malit in the Community. And Malit in the Community is a CIC that promotes and creates positive mental health through the medium of drama. So it started last January, so we're pretty up and running. And it started off as a theatre company. I've always done drama, I've always loved it, and I wanted to work with particularly young people. And to start off, I was like volunteering in different places, just trying to gain a bit more experience. And I worked with a young group of girls in a youth centre and just doing some drama activities with them. And it was quite evident that they were really struggling with body image, self-image. They were saying things like, I want to be blonde, I want to have blue eyes, I want to have a six-pack. And these girls were like 6 years old. And I was just blown away by it, and I just went away and was like, well, if I'm going to start this company, I think it needs to have an angle to help these young people in a certain way. And if it's going to be about body image or whatever it's going to be, it's got to come from yourself, and it's got to be about mental health. So it came from there, and then we dissected a lot of issues. We interviewed people, and I started making a verbatim piece for theatre, so a word for word piece for theatre, talking to people in the community from age 6 to 80 about their self-image, because that's where the idea stemmed from with the young girls. And I edited it all together and did a production with actors that I knew from university, and then it kind of came from there. I've always been into verbatim theatre. I did my dissertation on it in uni, so we've done other things like grief, males, mental health, and working within schools. And then in September we got an amazing opportunity to become facilitators of social prescribing charity Care Merseyside. So social prescribing is a non-clinical intervention. So if somebody was suffering from bereavement, social isolation, poor mental health, they'd go to the doctor and they prescribe them to like a course, like a creative class, something that enables them to meet new people, gain a new skill, that type of thing. And we were the facilitators for the drama class. And the people we had in that group were particularly there because they'd suffered a bereavement. And we found it to be very beneficial for them. The key point of what we found is that a lot of these people are using drama as their outlet. They can express themselves in such a unique way that it's different. Like Lee said, it's not like a clinical space with white walls and all this. It's interactive, it's fun, and like we laugh and we cry, and it's just different. It's unique to a counselling session. So that's what we do. We kind of work with young people and more the elderly people for the social prescribing. And I think that's been a challenge with obviously what's going on at the minute, because the elderly people we work with who are socially prescribed, they're not very tech savvy. They can't access a lot of, social media, things like that. They don't have a phone that's got a front camera or things like that. So that's been a challenge for us, because we have had to up our game. I feel like I would hate to just sit back and feel like, as Malit, we can't do anything about this. So we have upped our game on social media. We're doing live drama sessions, daily challenges. We're doing a weekly podcast episode, because I think it's good for people to just listen to normal casual chat. You know, we're talking about issues that surround all of this, you know, feeling anxious, feeling worried, feeling like lack of motivation. So we discuss all things like that, including tips and exercise that help us. And we've also created a little workbook for people to do at home. So we've created 3 drama ones and 3 wellbeing ones. So we think people, actors, creatives, students, whoever, can work on their skills. That's what we're encouraging, to use this time to work on your skills. So we've got a workbook on characterisation, improvisation and devising, and then the wellbeing ones are about anxiety management, boosting your mood, and self-love. So all things related to what's going on at the minute, all things you can do at home, and just hopefully can give people that little boost and something to work towards. Because I think, you know, if you are lacking and you're feeling demotivated, it's a good idea to try and work on a skill, whether it's a new skill or, you know, try and develop one. We've been doing mental health training with Be Well Learning League, you know, from the Bloom Building, and we've been doing level 2 understanding children and young people's mental health. We're already mental health first aid trained, but we think, you know, we may as well use this time to develop our own skills as well, so that when we come out of all this, I think there's going to be a lot of high demand for, you know, additional support to do with mental health. So hopefully we're prepared and ready to help people.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And I think you're right. This is a great, I know it's been a bit of a cliche that people have been saying, including the government, like it's a great opportunity to start learning. But I mean, a cliche is cliche for a reason.
Yeah. And it's easier said than done, definitely. But I think take it one step at a time. Like, you know, your own skill could be anything. It doesn't have to be, you know, an extravagant thing. It can be whatever is a skill for you. It doesn't have to be, you know, a huge thing.
Yeah, I think for me, I've always claimed that the reason why I couldn't cook was because I'd never had the time, and yeah, me and my partner have taken the time to do that, and we've eaten so much better and taken quite a lot of pride in doing that by like just picking up a few recipes and actually learning to do these things. It's been really great.
And enjoying it along the way. Like you'll find that you're starting to like it, put your music on and do something new. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for that. So Angela, would you like to go next?
Not after those two. Oh my God, your work's amazing. Lee, I need to come and visit the new building. Anna, I just kind of want to get my hands on your on your projects and just kind of come and see exactly what you're doing when all of this lockdown is finished. So I'm Angela Samata, and I suppose my kind of I've got 2 sides to what I do. Basically, I work in the arts, and I've worked in the arts for nearly 20 years, and my kind of journey into the whole arena of mental health and suicide prevention and suicide bereavement and my career in the arts have always ran parallel, because I started working in the arts in 2003, and unfortunately within a few weeks of starting to work at the Lady Lever Art Gallery, my partner very unexpectedly ended his life. And so what it meant was these 2 kind of massive worlds opened up for me at exactly the same time. So for the last kind of 16, 17 years, I've worked in the arts. The last kind of big job that I did was running the John Moores Painting Prize at the Walker Art Gallery. And at the same time as that, I also kind of realised that there was this whole world of suicide prevention, and you know, that I definitely wasn't alone in being bereaved in that way. And so I started kind of doing lots of voluntary work in the suicide prevention and bereavement world as well. So as well as working at the Walker Art Gallery, I also at the same time started sitting on the all-party parliamentary group for suicide prevention in England and Wales. And I also became the head of a national suicide bereavement charity as well. So it was quite kind of full on and busy. And then in 2015, the BBC came knocking on the door and asked me to present a film, which I said yes to straight away because I thought it was an art film. because they phoned me at the Walker. But actually, it was a film about what happened when Mark took his life. And so I thought, I'd spent years trying to get people to talk openly and honestly about suicide and suicide bereavement and mental health. And I thought it was time to, to do my bit really to try and forward the conversation. So we made a documentary. It went on BBC1 in 2015, and it was called Life After Suicide. And things just went ballistic after that. I could no longer work full time in the arts because kind of all the other stuff started kind of just bubbling up. And so that was kind of the start of a 5-year-long journey that I've been on so far, talking about mental health, talking about suicide prevention, finding out about, it's definitely been a learning curve for me. And now I do kind of work across the arts and mental health and suicide prevention. So I work with organisations like Heart of Glass, up in St Helens. I help to bring James's Place, a male-only kind of suicide kind of sanctuary, if you like, in the middle of Liverpool, help to bring that to Liverpool. And I work with lots of other people as well. So I sit on the board of the Hub of Hope, Chasing the Stigma with Jake Mills. And so I just kind of really try and use my skills where I can, and and just kind of try and help to forward the conversation around suicide prevention and suicide bereavement. And I think for me, I feel as if quite a lot of what you've said, Lee, and what you've said, Anna, absolutely chimes with how I was seeing kind of mental health services and provision moving for COVID. I kind of feel as if through things like what you're doing, Lee, what you're doing, Anna, the social prescribing, the kind of moving services online, I kind of feel as if mental health wise, that people had really started taking things, really empowering themselves to find out the information that they needed and to access the help that they needed before this happened. So the Hub of Hope, we were seeing like massive usage, 4,000 people a month kind of going on the Hub, accessing and finding their own help, not waiting for a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whoever to tell them what they needed, actually kind of going out and proactively finding it themselves. And I co-authored the Zero Suicide Alliance training about how to ask someone if they're feeling suicidal and what to do if the answer is yes. And that free training has now been accessed by 500,000 people, which tells me that people are really interested in finding things out for themselves. And exactly what Lee and Anna, what you're both doing is really kind of enabling people to feel empowered about their own mental health and well-being and actually access it without going even through like even going through like primary care or doctors or whatever, actually proactively finding the help that they need themselves. So that's what I've been doing. And then I've just finished working on a Hollyoaks campaign with them called the Month of Listening. So they've had some quite difficult storylines happening with 2 men who have felt suicidal. One manages to access the help that he needs and one doesn't. So we started to write this Month of Listening, which was on Instagram. And every day we just put useful information and Instagram posts out about what it takes to listen to difficult conversations. So it's not always about kind of talking and asking everybody to talk all the time. It's about thinking about what it takes to be a good listener. And so I've been working on that for the last month. So managing to carry on working, but just completely freaked out by this whole coronavirus thing, and definitely identified with what you said, Liam, at the very beginning about kind of just pretending it wasn't real. So it's kind of only just kind of starting to hit home actually that I'm in one place. So that's a bit strange.
Yeah, I think it'd actually be nice if you guys felt comfortable just sort of sharing how you're focusing on your self-care and all that sort of stuff. And Niamh, if you're here as well, it'd be good for you to jump in and talk about some of the self-care stuff that like we've been talking about at Make as well. So I'll come to you in a moment as well. Angela was also Woman of the Year, Merseyside Woman of the Year in 2015, by the way. I thoroughly deserved. But
I still can't believe that. It's like just a kind of, like how many amazing women are there in Liverpool and Merseyside, and like it was just just completely unbelievable.
And don't you get like free coffee at the Quarter for life or something like that? Is that actually true?
Loads of amazing prizes, actually. I got loads of amazing stuff, which one of the amazing things was a year's free hairdressing, so that was like amazing. I could kind of definitely do with that now. It's like I've got like a full of
I went full shave of the head pretty quickly. I had big emo fringe going on.
So let me just tell you this one positive thing from lockdown. My little 10-year-old niece Heidi has wanted a buzz for like forever, right? She's nagged her mum and dad. She's wanted a proper number 2 all over forever. So eventually she's nagged her parents down. So the only way they agreed to it was if she got sponsored for charity.
Oh, boss.
Yesterday she had she's 10 years old, she had all her hair shaved off and raised £1,000 for Iris. So we're just hoping the schools don't go back like next week or something, because her 10-year-old kid has now got a buzz cut. So
great, that's absolutely amazing. So would everyone just be okay sharing their self-care stories and what they're doing to manage their own situations at the moment?
I'm in a bit of an unfair position because I had my daughter was born. She's 8 weeks old. Tomorrow.
Yeah, unfair for you. Congratulations, mate.
Unfair as in like,
congratulations.
Like life is good, It's like been like the longest paternity leave ever. And with Benny's 1.5, and then Della, as I say, is 8 weeks old. So basically, we've just been getting out, make sure we get out, making sure we keep as active as we can. One of the positives that I didn't foresee. I haven't spoke to me family and a lot of different friends anywhere near as much as I have since we've been on lockdown, with stuff like House Party and Zoom, and I've never done so many quizzes.
Yeah. We're a nation of quizzes right now, aren't we?
Yeah. It's going to be well trained by the time we go back. But it's just about keeping active and stuff. And I've worked from home over the years a lot. So I'm quite used to that, but I know that presents challenges for people, because I was just speaking to someone before who doesn't usually work from home, and they're saying that they'll do the work all day and then they'll have the tea and put the kids to bed or whatever, and then think, I'll just go back and do those emails. So basically you're at work all day and the night and stuff, but I've stayed pretty strict around that. But yeah, as I say, I've been, everything's been quite nice and pleasant at our end. We found that the first couple of weeks, because human beings by design are the minds are elastic, so it's like the first couple of weeks it was like, whoa, this is weird, not being at work, but with still being at work somewhat. But then you're into this, and I know the phrase is everywhere now, but new normal, where it's just been like, oh, we could get used to this. It's like a taste of retirement.
But I think the thing for me, Lee, is that I've had to go back, and it's almost like being in a bad breakup or something, because I'm kind of finding I'm trying to piece together. I'm like really, really craving that. Okay, so when did this happen? Like, when did this conversation start? When was the first idea of us being locked down as a country? Because I remember working in Manchester and going back to my hotel room and it being on the news that actually they were thinking about kind of, that things that we did get human to human contagion and stuff like that. And I keep finding myself going back and watching and looking for headlines from that time, just thinking, okay, so when did this that's still trying to mentally put it together. Do you know what I mean? Do you find that, Anna? It's I don't know, just put it together.
It's still hard to get your head around, isn't it? Even though it's been a few weeks now, it still feels just really unusual. No, I know. I'm trying to do things make my own routine and try. I'll try and make my list, a list every day. I've literally got a list, and I'll tick everything off. And even if it's a little thing, I've water my plants. It's just it feels some normality in your life, doesn't it?
It's like an achievement as well. Like,
yeah, exactly. Even if it's not a big thing, like it's more than something. Like, it's all right. And like, I think like going on like little walks. I mean, the weather's not been great today, but it looks sunny now, doesn't it? But little walk, like just a bit of nature, just makes the world a difference. And like also trying to say to myself, like, I need to look after myself if I'm looking after other people. So I need to, make sure my well-being's a priority. And like me and my colleague Megan, I've said to her, like, in the morning, like, we'll set our alarms and we've got like 2 hours to just do our own thing before work starts, whether that's like making yourself a nice breakfast, doing a workout, whatever it is. I think it's worked for us so far. Like, we find it helpful that we're starting our day off how we want to, because I guess you've just got to make your own like schedule, haven't you? It's something you've got to do.
It's just like little slight tweaks, like you say there. So if you're writing a list, make sure that on that list every day is something positive.
Exactly, yeah. And a little reward if you do get through your little one thing on your list. Like, it's an accomplishment. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself to get through all these things, or be really productive, because there is no handbook for this type of thing, is there? So give yourself a break, give yourself credit for the little things.
I think it's also not beating yourself up because you haven't learned Italian, or you haven't learned
exactly, yeah.
Or, and I think kind of, again, because we've all of us in some way have got one foot in the art world. And I mean, I've seen like amazing people doing like, I don't know, kind of teaching themselves how to do all kinds of like new craft and arts and stuff like that. Just, when you're sitting there with your pajamas on, and it's just like, oh my God, it's really easy to like, think I need to use this time really, really productively, because at the moment getting up and getting dressed is productive. So
I
think that's a really, really important point that you're making there, Angela, because people sometimes forget that cynically, social media is also about marketing, and the things that are portrayed on there aren't necessarily reality. They're just a snapshot of something that's happening. And one of the really big things that helped me recover from mental health crisis was acceptance. And again, I know this is a cliche, but I had an amazing counselor, very lucky, who helped me understand about not fighting. I was always wanting to fight the disease in my head or whatever. And actually, I eventually learned to accept that I am who I am. And Neve, who's going to talk next about some of the things that she's been doing as well for her self-care and the conversations we've been having at Make. She's probably sick of me saying, don't swim upstream. It's one of my go-to sayings. Don't swim upstream. Namaste. Like, just let things be. And I'm a massive believer of not creating friction in your life, and that being the route to happiness, and like looking at what other people are doing and comparing your achievements against theirs is a route to misery. So Neve, do you want to share some of your thoughts as well?
Yeah, of course. And sorry, I'm feeling like hiding in the shadows. I've got really bad connection, so I can't really have my video on that long. It'll probably mess up everyone's videos. But so it has been a big topic conversation in all of our meetings for sure. We regularly have Zoom calls. Maybe not schedule them in, but it's just checking up on each other. Because something I miss the most, and I know me and my colleagues have talked about this a lot as well, we're always in the office together, and we're always chatting, and we're always comparing different things, and that's something that we've really had to get used to. So we've took the step to make the effort to speak to each other through Zoom or something, even if it is just for a minute, and then that usually turns into like, how are you, like what have you done, and stuff like that. This does apply to working at home, but also applies to just everything as well, just checking in on people. We're really lucky now that, or anyone who does have access to the technology that we do, we're really lucky that we can just message someone or do video call and stuff, where as we mentioned in one of the talks before, if this was 10 years ago, it would have been a completely different story. So that's definitely something we're trying to stick at.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And actually, thanks, Neve. One of the questions that's come up is from Jane. Thanks being here for the whole 3 sessions, Jane. You know I love you anyway, but thanks for showing us some love. So it's about the challenge that we face with the people who don't have the technology to engage in this way. Isolation in old people was already a growing challenge in our society. So specifically, Jane's question is about like local TV and Liverpool TV, and you know, I think she's suggesting that we commandeer it. But I don't know if you guys have had to face that challenge during this time. I know that you know, we've had to help our nan get an iPad and download Zoom so she could zoom into one of the meals.
I've had lots of phone calls with like my dad's ear, because he doesn't quite understand. So my dad is Greek and doesn't really use technology very much, so he doesn't really get the concept of FaceTime, and because he can't hear it properly, the grandkids are like talking to his ear quite a lot. But I just, you know, I just think that sometimes a phone call is all it takes, and most people have got access to phone, and I understand that like face-to-face and eye contact and all that is really important, and seeing people, especially people with dementia, you know, can't really grasp the reality of why relatives aren't there or why they can't see the people that they love. But you know, sometimes I just think the power of a phone call, so I think we've kind of forgotten it. The power of just hearing someone's voice, the connection that creates, I think it is sometimes really powerful. And I know loads of services, yours included, Lee, have kind of gone online, and I know at James's place lots of the therapy sessions that are actually happening over the phone. So I think sometimes it doesn't always have to be whiz-bang technology. It can be as simple as a phone call.
I think it's like anything in day-to-day. You've got to give people choice, and you've got to make yourself as an organisation or as provider or whatever you're doing flexible, because not everyone's going to be in the same boat. Like, so where there is people with access issues or people who can't use a computer for whatever reason, you know, we will offer that person to maybe wait and then complete the sessions when we return, or we can do them over Skype. We've done that, and just trying to make sure that we're being as open and flexible as possible. But in terms of like the phone call, so we're seeing it with, so we've got a team of 65 mentors at any given time, who basically they get coming and mentoring with us is a hugely positive thing for the well-being of the mentor, as well as it is with the with the member who they're supporting. So we've been trying to keep active dialogue open with them as well, and little things like a phone call here and there, just to say, listen, this is where we're up to, this is where we're thinking about coming back. How are you doing? How are you getting on? It's gone a long way. People are feeding back to people feeling appreciated and like the valued and stuff, and we've tried to get them involved in, because we did like a few social media posts about ways to stay well and bits and bobs, but that was designed by putting that out to the mentors and trying to get them involved in different ways. Like,
but I really love your idea as well, Lee, and I think Anna certainly in your work as well, of actually bringing the whole family or the whole support network in, so the people that you live with or the people next door or whatever, or your family or whatever, actually making them part of the conversation as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just, you know, it's the people in your house or the people who are physically close to you. I know we all can't get physically close, but I suppose that's another way to do it. But I'm definitely into taking TV.
And we do actually say that, and we've said that to everyone. Like, we think it'd be a really good idea if you substitute your mentor for somebody within your family who you trust. You know, not that many people from the feedback we're getting have actually gone through with that, but some have, and that's a really, really positive thing. And it's like, again, because a lot of the time when someone's not feeling good, they'll keep themselves to themselves and not say anything to the people around them. You know, it's commonplace throughout the world when they're talking about these issues. So if even by those people, it's a conversation starter, and then they can see what you've been going through and what you're doing about it. It's just a really positive, extra added value thing.
Yeah, I think that's a positive, like, what to come from this, isn't it? Like, it's making people reach out more and pick up the phone and, you know, make the effort. Like, you know, like I mentioned earlier, our older beneficiaries, they don't have anything, but like, we've been sending each other letters, which I think is just brilliant. And I think if anybody else works with like older people, it's just a brilliant way to connect. And like, it's like his a little diary and like things he's been up to and things that helps him, and like all the other beneficiaries are like getting involved in doing it, or sending a voice recording to a friend or back and forth. Like, there's so many different things that you can do. And I think there's a self-refer button on the Care Merseyside website that's been launched yesterday as well. So if you're feeling like, oh, I don't have somebody to speak to, go to their website, and it's a big button. You can find it easy, and somebody will be able to talk to you through video or through call, and it can just be a chat. Like, you don't have to talk about what's going on. It can just be like an uplifting conversation. There's always someone who will listen and talk. So don't ever feel like you're alone if you're too scared to reach out. But because I feel like a lot of people don't want to like ask for help at the minute, because they think that the NHS is, you know, already under so much pressure. But, you know, organisations like ourselves and like Angela, all the amazing work you're doing, it's like we're helping the NHS relieve their burden. And I think if people do reach out to these organisations, like, don't ever feel like you can't. That's what I'd say.
I mean, I think we'll know we've definitely reached kind of parity between physical and mental health when we see people on their doorsteps on a Thursday night, you know, clapping for mental health services, you know, kind of really, you know, kind of embracing that and thanking that bit of the NHS and the third sector and all of our work, you know. So yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that's such a lovely idea and concept with the letters, though, Anna.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
They've loved it as well. Like, they've loved like sitting down and doing it, because it's something they probably haven't done for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's brilliant. Like, somebody today sent me his own little stamp and envelope back.
Oh my god, that's amazing. my heart.
If it was suitable in that with the content and that, we'd love to do like an exhibition or something when we reopen with
I'll ask him. I'll definitely like let them know, because they started coming in. It was their challenge last week, so they started coming in this week. But I'm sure a lot of them would want to share their stories.
Yeah, amazing.
Curate it for you.
Right. It sounds like we've just organised an exhibition. Angela's going to curate it. Lee's going to organise it. Anna's going to supply the content. Amazing. As long as it happens in Birkenhead, that's fine with me. All right, thank you very much. So we've reached the end, but really appreciate the conversation and the points and all your backstories and all that stuff. So thank you for taking the time, panelists, for talking about this. Thank you to all of the attendees for the questions and for participating in this session and the others. And like I say before, this is being recorded, so we will clip it and put it on YouTube for later consumption, and it'd be great if people could share it there as well.
And if there's anyone sending questions, Liam, will they go on Twitter or? Because
So Amy has been in the chat, and so we've sent out response information to all the things that came up, but we'll also write a blog with those questions in post event. All right, great. Thank you very much, everybody, and hopefully I'll see you all soon, and hopefully we'll be able to hug.